Hello, and welcome to my presentation on engaging and integrating adjunct faculty in higher education, creating a usable conceptual model. Before we get started in the presentation, I'd like to give you a brief overview of what I'm going to cover today. So first, we're going to start off with the changing landscape of higher education, which then leads directly into our themes and research questions. The themes and research questions are built on the foundational theoretical model that was the inspiration for this project. We then go right into this to a deeper discussion of the themes of engaging adjunct faculty and the integration of adjunct faculty, which then will lead us to our conclusion of in which I will propose a conceptual model to be used in the future for higher education. So when we talk about the changing landscape in higher education, I'm really talking about the instructional proportion of changes throughout the last few decades. So what we tend to see in 1970 is that full-time faculty accounted for the lion's share of student instruction at nearly 78%, right? Whereas part-time faculty only accounted for about 22% of student instruction. But with changes throughout time with economic issues, remote learning, and advent of online learning, we start to see that this proportion starts to balance out with full-time faculty teaching about 54% of the courses and adjunct faculty more than doubling where they were in 1970 at 46%. Now, if we delve even deeper and look at 2018 by type of institution, one of the things that we see is that two-year institutions really stand out. Part-time faculty share of instruction is more than double that of full-time faculty at two-year or community colleges. Okay, so this is a big deal because what we have seen in literature is that there is a connection between part-time faculty instruction and student success. Okay, so this leads us right into the themes and research questions for this project. So the themes that emerged in the literature for me are engagement and integration. And these two themes emerged after I read so many different articles that talked about these concepts, but they used so many different words that they were using interchangeably for that means the same thing, such as collaboration, socialization, organizational culture, professional development, support, and professional growth, and a host of other concepts. Now, the problem with this is that researchers are using all of these terms interchangeably, right? But there's no consistency of definitions. So the foundational model that I'm using actually starts to make a distinction between engagement and integration, in which engagement is the institutional support of part-time faculty, including professional growth and development. And integration is that cultural element, such as socialization and outreach and collaboration. So engagement and integration are two sides of the same coin, but they are distinct elements. And knowing that and knowing which element or elements to target will help come up with more of a cohesive solution to the problem. So the research questions for my project are why is it difficult for higher education institutions to effectively integrate and engage adjunct faculty? And what strategies have been suggested to higher educational institutions to improve the efficacy of adjunct faculty and integration and engagement? Then, what is an inclusive model for adjunct faculty engagement and integration that institutions can implement? Okay. So I've talked a lot about this conceptual model, and Thoreau, in her conceptual paper, really started to do what the rest of the literature hasn't done, and it's really specified the difference between integration and engagement. And we talked about this definitions just a minute ago. Okay, so remember, integration is that cultural element, that sense of connection, that social element, whereas engagement is more the professional development or the academic aspect. Okay? So when you look at her model, right, Thoreau's model shows a reciprocal relationship between faculty identity and comprehensive faculty engagement. These two elements, these two variables, then have an impact on faculty positive outcomes that then impact student outcomes, right? When we look at the comprehensive faculty engagement, right, Thoreau still falls into the same problem as the rest of the literature, although the entire conceptual paper specifies the difference between engagement and integration. Thoreau still combines the concept into engagement, which is still a gap in this literature that I'm looking to explore. But in this comprehensive model, faculty engagement, she does separate and specify academic and the social elements, which in the literature, in her conceptualization, is integration and engagement. Okay, so this is the foundation of my research that I'm going to explore. So when we look at faculty integration, okay, some of the problems that emerge, according to some part-time faculty, is that there's a communication and lack of social connection. And with communication, adjunct faculty talk about an email issue in which they're either getting inundated or overwhelmed by so much email that's not related to them. They're not sure what to parse out and what it actually applies to them. Or the other side, in which the emails that are related to them may be received after the fact or so late that they don't have a chance to attend some of the activities that they were somewhat, maybe kind of sort of invited to, right? Another communication issue is scheduling, in which part-time faculty either receive their classes at the last minute or they receive a different class each term that is difficult for them to prepare for. So the lack of socialization refers to this marginalization and feelings of isolation. The marginalization is not having any contact with individuals, or not being able to, not only having contact with the department chair or an administrator, and really not feeling being a part of their department or the community of their institution. The isolation plays into this marginalization in the fact that many part-time faculty teach at untraditional hours, in which the campus is typically closed down and they're teaching in the evening or on the weekends. So some of the suggestions or recommendations to resolve this issue is to send out targeted emails, targeted newsletters that are just for adjunct faculty, that gives them the information that they need. Update websites and LMS portals that give specific information to and help direct adjunct faculty. Mentorship programs, virtual communities, and on-campus learning communities. Right? Adjunct faculty engagement, right? The problem with this, remember, engagement is about that professional development. So it's that lack of institutional support, right? That lack of institutional support, in which professional development opportunities are either not provided, or it's inadequate, or they're offered at times in which it's difficult for part-time faculty to attend. So remember, we just talked about those non-traditional hours in which part-time faculty tend to teach, or they teach off campus. Then it's hard for them to attend those 9 to 5 time slots for professional development. There's also a knowledge gap of having the information of what they need to teach in their discipline, but not having the skills or knowledge of how to manage a classroom, especially when we're talking about faculty who are coming in and now they're presented with classrooms, especially in two-year colleges, full of students who have developmental, that are in developmental coursework. Okay. Finally, is a lack of voice in course curriculum and development, where adjunct faculty feels as though they've been overlooked. They're just teaching classes that have been given to them. They have no say, especially in centrally designed courses where they have no autonomy or control over the content that they are presenting. So some of the recommendations to address some of these issues is structured participation, especially when we're talking about centrally designed courses. Giving part-time faculty the opportunity to participate in the construction of these courses in some manner, whether it's through a liaison, through a survey, where they have some type of say. Orientation workshops that starts helping them with classroom management or with knowing where things are on campus and where to direct students to different portions of the campus, as well as classroom management professional development to help with those developmental courses and how to run a classroom. Right? So with this in mind, my proposed conceptual model resembles Thoreau's model in that we still have faculty identity that's impacting both faculty integration and faculty engagement, and it still recognizes those reciprocal that reciprocal relationship, but now they are distinct components, and each component has their social element or the academic element, which all impact faculty outcomes and then indirectly impacts student outcomes. All right, that is it. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Just kidding. Thank you for attending my presentation.